I had a conversation several years ago with a coworker that's had a big impact on my life, and not in the way she probably intended. So we were talking about personalities and how to adapt to a new relationship. She shared this story from early in her marriage. She said that she is the type of person that can mentally keep track of things, and so she would have this list in her head, a honey-do list, and as soon as something was accomplished, in her mind it was checked off, scratched off, and it was done. Well, one day her husband mentioned to her that it would be kind of nice just once in a while to get some acknowledgement or appreciation for getting some things done around the house. And her response was, well, I would acknowledge and thank you for doing things if you did anything. Because in her mind, there was always this to-do list and never the accomplished list. So she decided to win the argument that had come from this discussion, that she would keep track of this list on a hard copy so she could show him how much he doesn't do that he thinks he does. And of course, as you can probably guess, she ended up realizing as she's keeping track of this list on hard copy that he's actually doing quite a bit around the house, and that she was really taking him for granted. So at the end of the year, I was thinking about that and how that applied to me in my own life. Now, I'm not married, and so it wasn't that application, but like her, I would keep a mental list of my New Year's resolutions. And at the end of the year, I could only remember all the stuff I did not get done. And so I'd get really hard on myself, wondering, well, what did I accomplish this year? What did I do? I didn't get anything done. And so I took her idea of keeping a list, and for the first time that next year, which was 2008, I wrote down my New Year's resolutions or goals, so that at the end of the year I could look back on them and remember all the things that I did get done, and hopefully be a little bit easier on myself. And it worked. I've been maintaining a list. I did transition from hard copy to digital, but I do make an actual list every year. And it's really nice to look back at the end of the year and see what I accomplished. And I generally hit about 50% of my list. But it's better to feel like I got half of my stuff done than to feel like I didn't do anything. One other thought I'd like to share about New Year's resolutions. A couple years ago, I was watching a national news channel, and it was around New Year's, and they had a psychologist on talking about how to be more successful in keeping your New Year's resolutions. And then this person went over all the traditional set achievable goals, break big things down into smaller things, all that stuff that I think is fairly common sense. But suggested, in addition to that, something I found really interesting that I have also applied to my list. They said that the word resolution has an inherent resistance to it. And in some ways, we set ourselves up for failure by psychologically using a word that predisposes us to thinking this is going to be really hard. And so they suggested you could have more success if you would do a simple word exchange with resolutions and change it to something like aspirations, which has a much more positive connotation to it. And I loved that idea. And so I did that. At the time, I was using the word goal because it didn't make sense to me, come the second half of the year, to be working on New Year's resolutions, because New Year's to me is a seasonal thing. And so I had my yearly goals that I have now changed to my yearly aspirations. And that's worked really well for me, having a list, using positive words. As I was thinking about it during my drive, I just wanted to share that today. Thank you for taking the time to hear my thoughts on New Year's aspirations. If you found this interesting or helpful, please hit the like button. And if you have something to share on this topic, please do so in the comments below. You may have something to share that could inspire others of us.